It's all going south for New York's COVID vaccine rollout so far. Former head of the state's Democratic Party, 73-year-old John Sullivan, traveled to Florida to get his first dose of the shot, blaming New York's Governor Cuomo, and he said that the rollout of the vaccine under Cuomo has been too slow to help the elderly. This as COVID cases rise in the Empire State, and New York City's Bill de Blasio, the mayor here, says without a resupply mission, the city will run out of vaccines by the end of this week. Here to discuss the slow rollout and the looming shortage is talk show host here on 710 WOR NYC, Mark Simone. Mark, good to see you.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
Mark, I feel like we expected there to be some issues, but somehow, even with low expectations, the rollout of the vaccine in New York and many other states, but we'll focus in on New York for right now, hasn't even met the very low expectations that we would have.
Well, I notice I'm always invited on shows about every 3 weeks to explain why Governor Cuomo messed up something from the beginning, from the nursing home scandal to this, to that, to this. Well, the latest is the vaccine. He messed up in the beginning. Obviously, there's a limited supply coming from the federal government. But I don't know if you remember, but in the first couple of weeks, he ended up having to throw away vaccines. About 50% of the vaccines never got given out. He threatened the hospitals in the beginning. It was a huge mistake. You have certain categories supposed to go to 75 and up, or healthcare workers. But in Florida and other places, if anybody was around, they would just vaccinate them. Cuomo threatened the hospitals, $1 million fine, and you'll never get another vaccine if one wrong person is vaccinated. They got so frightened that they were throwing out vaccines at the end of the day rather than giving to anybody. We might have lost 10, 15% of our vaccines that way. Now he's lifted all those restrictions. The process got going, but he ran out of vaccines. He's only done 4% of New York State. Other states have done 10% and more. If you watch him around the country and you think, what a leader, look at these briefings. He's got charts and graphs and diagrams and facts. And it's all briefings.
All for show.
That's all he's...
Yeah, it's all for show. Here he is on Twitter. Over 1 million vaccine doses have been administered in New York State to date. As supply ramps up, we're ready. Hashtag vaccinate New York. This is a guy who has been writing books about his COVID response. You'd think that he would be more prepared than he has been, and yet the media doesn't put a glove on this guy. They trash DeSantis, who by all numbers you can look at is doing better than Cuomo in his response as a governor, and yet Cuomo's the hero, Mark. How is that?
Again, it's all briefings. I hate to say it, but Democrats seem to love the show. They seem to love the right narrative, the right fantasy, and have created a fantasy about this guy. It's a great book. It's a great briefing. Unfortunately, can't get anything done when it comes to actually enacting anything. You know, in New York State, we got the most brilliant CEOs and business guys in the world. If you called on them, they would be happy to come in and get one of the great CEOs, somebody who's used to distributing products all over a state. Let them run the program. He's not a guy who ever turns to anybody. He's an expert on briefings. Actually executing, that's not his field. He doesn't know anything about doing that. It's a huge problem for New York in every step of this virus, from the nursing homes to the restaurants to keeping businesses going to giving out vaccines. He's been a disaster. And he always blames Trump as if Donald Trump is supposed to set up the distribution. We have the distribution route. We've got more hospitals than anybody. We got more pharmacies than anybody. We have the distribution. Just start using it.
Let's take a look at the national level and what we're dealing with there. Here is HHS Secretary Azar talking about Biden's vaccine goal. Play it.
This is a concerted effort by the new team to down-talk where things are so they can look like heroes when they come in and just carry forward the momentum that we have established. This whole President-elect Biden, and we'll have 100 million shots in arms by the end of April, the first 100 days. We will have distributed 250 million doses of vaccine by the end of April. If they've only done 100 million vaccinations by then, it will be a tragic squandering of the opportunity that we have handed them.
Just goes to show you, Mark, that, unless you see that clip from Azar, the media talks about the 100 million by the end of April as though Biden is the great hero of our time. What do you make of it?
Well, listen, that could be why Governor Cuomo's putting on a show about how everything's a disaster. And then maybe after the inauguration, maybe on Thursday, all of a sudden it's not a disaster. Yeah, the Biden plan is 100 million doses in 100 days. I think it's feasible. since it was already enacted and was already happening anyway, since all of the companies announced they could make that much vaccine. So, but again, within 2 days after the inauguration, liberals will convince themselves it was Biden that somehow did it.
And also, what is the? I keep hearing that Biden's going to do such a better job with this. I never even hear them try to explain what Biden would do, what a Biden administration will do differently, especially given the role that the states have. Do they just say Biden's going to be better, or do they have some reason as to why?
You don't need a reason. You just need a great briefing, a great speech, the right words, the right narrative, and they all fall into line. The biggest problem we have in this country is we have no working media right now, except for guys like you. But major networks, newspapers, all cover this up. They should be all over these guys. How do you said? How does Cuomo get away with this? There's no media fact checking all of this. There's no media exposing the truth. You know, I read the publishers now demanding that Donald Trump can't publish a book. Why would a man who put kids in cages be allowed to publish a book? Well, that's Joe Biden. Where's the media to call them out on this? You're just getting one side of the story.
And on the fact-checking and looking at information and then holding people accountable part of this, Biden tweeted out yesterday, "I know masks have become a partisan issue, but it's a patriotic act. Experts say wearing a mask from now till April will save more than 50,000 lives." I mean, they've been telling us about all the lives saved if we just do what they say for a long time here. It seems like no one ever goes back to check the math, Mark. It seems like they say this stuff so that everyone obeys, but then we look at it and the projections are not very good.
Hey, it's another brilliant plan. Wear a mask. Does he know we've all been wearing masks the last 8 months? I know there's a homeless guy somewhere now wearing one. There's a crazy Karen who won't put one on, but everybody's been wearing masks.
All wearing
masks. What's his next plan? What's his other plan? Seatbelts? I mean,
yeah, you know, there were pieces written back in May about how if we had 80% mask compliance, we would effectively defeat the virus. Like we wouldn't even have to worry about it anymore. We've had over 80% compliance with masks based on all the surveys, all the different data you can look at for over 6 months. And we've had the worst ever spikes in California and spikes elsewhere across the country. So we'll see. The Biden administration, they're going to have magic answers that they can't tell us about quite yet, Mark, but we appreciate you're going to hold them to account. And don't let Cuomo, wiggle out of responsibility either, all right?
All right, but he's went to briefing school. He learned how to do that. Management school, that he never went to.
Mark Simone of 710 WOR. Mark, good to see you. Thanks so much. Hey, Team Buck, just want to say thanks so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more great content from The First, please click that subscribe button.